we are just disappearing them like Russia, like Syria, like every bad regime and actor out there. We're just disappearing people now.
I'm warning you right now, you might want to sit down for this meltdown, because in this video, we will go over the most recent CNN meltdown, where a CNN news anchor compares Donald Trump's deportations to Russia and Syria disappearing people, to the Trump administration breaking the rules of war. I'm not making this up. You'll see all of this in the video. Now, before we start the video, please like the video. It's the #1 way you can help this channel, and it helps others see the videos as well, so let us begin.
He's the host. This is nonsense. What's interesting here is the Trump justification for rounding these people up without due process is the Alien Immigration Act
from 1798.
Right. He is saying that essentially we are being invaded. It is a war. That is how he's justifying this without due process.
All right, I'm going to assume CNN has no idea this document exists, but make sure you know about this. It's called the Fair Information Practice Principles. Now, CNN and other Democrats and left-leaning media, they'll say, hey, the Trump administration, they're just deporting people and we don't even know the names of the individuals. Well, in 2008, this document was created, and please go look it up so you guys can actually know this is true. When you go through the document, Homeland Security and ICE does not need to give away any information of detained illegal immigrants. The reason why they did this was not for evil practices. The reason why they did this was to make sure you dignify the human being of an illegal immigrant, because illegal immigrants do not have any privacy laws. So Homeland Security said, okay, hold on, to protect their privacy, let's create our own memorandum so that we can protect and give a little bit of dignity to these human beings. But CNN, they're just completely twisting the story.
I'm not a lawyer, but I know what due process is, and it's important. The thing that's funny about this now is, if it's a war and you're doing this under the auspices of war, Kristi Noem just broke the Geneva Convention, because you're not allowed to pose in front of prisoners of war. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot just say, well, these are just detainees now. They're not our problem. They're in some El Salvadorian prison, so I'm going to take a photo op to look like I'm playing at politics, and say that we are at war.
This is one of the most bizarre arguments I've ever heard from CNN. It's also very misleading, but let's give you guys the facts. First things first, when you invoke this policy, it doesn't necessarily mean we are at war. You're probably sitting here like, how did we break any war crimes if we've never legitimately declared a war with the US government? Because there is no war. Later in the policy, it says predatory incursion is perpetrated. This is how Donald Trump's administration is legally allowed to deport anyone they want, they deem necessary, if they are threatening against the territory of the United States, all right? This is all it takes as far as using this policy. Now, what the CNN news anchor is trying to say is, well, the Trump administration, they're coming off as if we are in a war.
From illegal invasions of people that we don't even know. We haven't named them. We are just disappearing them like Russia, like Syria, like every bad regime and actor out there. We're just disappearing people now.
The irony of that CNN news anchor comparing the Trump administration and ICE to Syria and Russia, when in all reality, again, I already showed you guys this memorandum, the Fair Information Practice Principles is literally there to protect the dignity and the human rights of the people being deported, regardless if they're terror suspects or regular suspects. Again, this is all put in place to protect their privacy. However, CNN is flipping this and saying, wow, isn't this sketchy? I'll let you guys decide.
War, Kristi Noem just broke the Geneva Convention, because you're not allowed to pose in front of prisoners of war.
All right, I can't believe we're going to address this, but just in case CNN tries to make this argument again, here you go. First things first, there's no such thing as the rules of war. This is not the NFL. You can't just open up a rule book. It's called the International Humanitarian Laws. Essentially, it's guidelines and hope that militaries will follow the international humanitarian law. Second off, as far as taking pictures in front of POWs and terror suspects, it's all about respect and all about dignity. I advise you, please go look up the pictures or videos of Kristi Noem taking these pictures and videos in front of the POWs or the terror suspects, if you want to call them that. She did it with respect, and she did not do anything to humiliate the prisoner. So again, these are very aggressive accusations, and I cannot believe CNN even went down that road.
To be clear, undocumented folk contribute approximately $100 billion in taxes. They pay into Social Security and they don't get to draw down on it. So stop, again, allowing them to divide us and to demonize them.
All right, this video is sponsored by American Financing. Look, I don't know your exact situation, but if you're like the thousands of homeowners American Financing talks to every month, you're struggling to keep up, barely making ends meet, drowning in high interest debt, it's not your fault. Life got more expensive. Inflation hit hard. If you're still carrying credit card balances with 20% plus interest rates while mortgage sits untouched, you're ignoring the one thing that could turn it all around: your home. And this is where American Financing can help. Would you trade 10 minutes for a shot at saving an average of $800 every single month? Because that's exactly what homeowners are doing when they call American Financing. A simple, no obligation call could change everything. They have a team of salary-based mortgage consultants, so there isn't any incentive to put you into a loan that doesn't make any sense. And there are no upfront fees to find out how much you can save. Don't wait. Call American Financing today and start feeling that relief. Call 866-889-2611. That's 866-889-2611. Or visit americanfinancing.net/T-SPLY. I'll put the links in my bio and pinned comment. Go check this team out. They're awesome.
63%, according to the latest Fox News poll, say that they favor deporting those immigrants. So that's a pretty high number. Can you square that with what we just heard from Priscilla's reporting?
Look, the reality of the situation for Democrats is this. The majority, the mass majority, whether Democrat or Republican, Americans want deportations. However, you have people like Jasmine Crockett who are making these arguments of, well, you know, illegal immigrants, they're paying Social Security, thus we should leave them alone. You know, totally disregarding the illegal immigrant part because she's calling them undocumented immigrants. But then you also have CNN making arguments, you know, accusations, calling Kristi Noem a war criminal and comparing the Trump administration to terrible regimes over in Syria and Russia. This is becoming a massive issue, or an 80-20 issue for Democrats, where they are siding on the wrong side of the argument, and the majority of Americans are just not buying it.
It's not a criminal violation to enter the country illegally. It's not a criminal. It's a crime. It's not a crime, which is why they're so frustrated, because they really want our local law enforcement to go out and round up people when they could be looking out for the murderers and the sex abusers as well as the robbers. They want them to go and round people up on civil accusations.
Why are you shipping these immigrants up north? We need them to pick the crops down here. But that doesn't mean that we don't recognize our moral responsibility as well. When the president, the former, occasional...
Again, the crazy part is I am not even doctoring these clips. I am playing you guys the full clips and the full context. These are what Democrats are saying, and this is a very shocking poll and statistic that Democrats, they're really not acknowledging that 63% of Americans favor the deportations of illegal immigrants.
On the issue of these deportations, it's quite clear the president believes he is keeping the United States and its citizens safe from non-citizens who are in the country illegally, first of all, and second of all, who have a long history of committing very, very violent acts, from murder to rape to trafficking and so on.
Don't you think they have to prove that, though? Because, I mean, I think I don't think anybody disagrees about their ability to deport people who are murderers or whatever, but don't they have to actually prove that those people are who they say they are and that they've carried out those acts of those criminal acts.
Yeah, I think that obviously the president has kind of blanketed the airwaves with saying that all of these people deported are criminals. And given the fact that we, reporters like Priscilla, we have very limited information to who exactly has been deported. The government has not handed over names. I know CBS got a hold of a list of names, but that hasn't been provided to those who are asking for who was actually deported. And there is a difference between someone who came into the country illegally versus someone who overstayed their visa. That's not a crime.
By the way, if you overstay your visa, you're totally getting deported from this country. That is actually the policy of the United States. As far as using blanket statements, accusing Republicans of, using the blanket statement of illegal immigrants on anyone who's an illegal immigrant, yes, you are an illegal immigrant. So how could you accuse somebody of a blanket statement if that is the actual classification by law of an illegal immigrant? I would actually argue from a Republican standpoint towards Democrats that Democrats are the ones that use blanket statements, because if you just address everyone as an undocumented citizen, what if you not only came into the country illegally, which is illegal, but then you actually do something even more illegal, like another bad crime? Democrats are just not willing, to actually create classifications or point out differences in illegal immigrants. I really think Republicans are actually doing a better job at creating classifications, and as I pointed out throughout this video, even Homeland Security and ICE are doing their best job and trying to have some privacy for these illegal immigrants who only came into the country illegally, which is illegal. However, they didn't do anything past that. So that is why Homeland Security is being very careful not to release all of these names.
Deport all immigrants here illegally. I will note the ABC News poll asked about undocumented immigrants. So we have slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last month. And there's real uniformity here. That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity. Deported all immigrants who are here illegally. 55% the New York Times. Marquette, 64%. CBS News, 57%. ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no arguing with these different numbers because they're all essentially the same across 4 different pollsters.
So if they say yes today-ish, how has that changed?
This is going to blow your mind. Take a look at that date at the bottom left, 2024 through 2025. This is a news segment from January. We are currently in March. So to give you an idea, Americans actually want deportations even more on average when you compare the previous polling done all the way back in January, which means the mass majority of Americans actually do like what Donald Trump is doing, despite the accusations of breaking the rules of war, despite the accusations of calling out the morality of not, giving out the names of these supposed illegal immigrants. Again, the stats speak for themselves, and I'm appealing to CNN information, so CNN cannot hate on CNN information, because how could you do that? It's not like CNN's ever done that before. But, all sarcasm set aside, I do think it's important to know I only am using CNN sources to disprove CNN sources throughout pretty much this entire video. So again, leave your comments down below how you feel about all of this. Let me know how you feel about deportations. One thing I will say is this: it is a very, very tough situation because there are families who are being separated, but at the end of the day, this is currently what the Trump administration said they were going to do. This is what the majority of Republicans voted for, and it's actually happening, and Republicans and really a lot of other Democrats still support it. So anyway, thank you guys for being here. God bless, and we'll see you guys later.